right, good morning, everybody. One flight down. So we made it onto the plane. No small feat. Fourth flight. It's 1 a.m. now. We have 2 hours to go, and then we'll have him traveling for 24 hours. So almost done. Well, hey, it's Levi.
And Jennie.
And we are your hosts. Welcome to the podcast for the very first international episode of Hey, it's Luskos. We are currently in Santa Cruz, Bolivia.
That's right.
And we are so excited today to talk to you about something that I think really matters to God and should matter to all of us. And that's the Great Commission.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy to live in kind of a bubble of your own country, your own culture, and something that I think as parents and as people, we should all care about. And that is having the heart of the Father for every tribe, every tongue, every nation embedded into the DNA of a family. And that's something that, of course, is like the marching orders of Jesus: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth, the Great Commission. But I think it can be hard to keep that at the forefront of daily life when there's everything going on.
It's true. And it's something that has been such a deeply embedded thing in our lives from when I was 13 and went on my first mission trip to Mexico. You were 14 going to your first mission trip to Romania.
Yeah.
And it was something that has just been part of who we are, our DNA. And that's how we met in ministry. And that's been our heart for our whole life. But now getting to bring our kids along the journey and be in Bolivia and see what God's doing in this country has been such an incredible thing to expose our kids to.
Yeah.
And then also for our church, next year we're taking our church on our first mission trip. And I think
this summer,
we have
our first Luskateer chance to serve together, Hope Heals Camp.
Yeah.
Which is really, I want to talk about that because serving in our own country, we're serving in the world of families with special needs.
Right.
So I think when we think about going to all the world, we should think geographic regions, but we also have to think like God does, the world of sports, the world of education, the world of, and really a subset of our world is families with disabilities, with someone in the family with a disability. And so I love that our first Hey, it's Luskos mission trip with our Luskateer fam is going to be to a world that God cares so much about. And it'll be eye-opening. And then we're going to also have, like you said, Fresh Life missions. But I think every family kind of like wants that to be there. And I think we all, none of us would say, hey, I only want to live with like blinders on to the rest of the world while I just enjoy my culture, my life. But I think it can be easy for that to, be on the back burner at best, or even worse, not even on the burners at all. So we're going to end this episode talking about a very simple, very practical way that's been so helpful, I think, for all of us, Luskos, to keep the Great Commission at the forefront in a way that's been beautiful and possible. And that's kind of, we'll tell the story of us being here and all that. But first, I thought it would be cool for you to go back and talk about your first mission trip, what it meant to you, seeing another culture, getting out of your own home and life and nation and all of that.
Yeah. I was 13 years old. So I was in 8th grade, and my youth group did a mission trip to Mexico. And honestly, what I remember is the joy that I saw in a community, in a group of people, in a culture, even though they didn't have the things that our culture says you need to have to be happy. So I just remember we were serving at this church and serving with these kids, and we did a vacation Bible school in Spanish with these children. And I just remember them having such a sweetness and a excitement, and they didn't have the kind of home that I would think that they would need in order to be happy, or toys or clothes or things. And I think what I took away from that when I was 13 was the contentment that we can have no matter what we have. And I honestly don't know if I made any significant impact on the trip, but I know that God first got a hold of my heart and impacted me in a way that changed the trajectory of my life, because I think that was the moment where I felt the calling or the desire to serve God with my whole life, no matter what it looked like. And I'm grateful for my church that put it together and created space for that to happen. And also just that God was so kind to meet me when I was 13, and my mind was probably everywhere. And I remember I had a crush on a boy that went, and like, there was just so much going on, but I just remember there was just a connection with God that I hadn't ever had before that changed my life.
Yeah, great.
How about you? And
yeah, similar. I got saved, and fortunately got saved into a youth ministry that missions was such a big part of it. My youth pastor had a call on his life to missions, cared about the mission field, and wanted to mobilize and help teenagers get involved in missions too. And on that trip to Romania in 1998, I was asked, would you get up and give an evangelistic message for the first time? First time I ever shared the gospel publicly into a microphone in my whole life.
Wow.
And
at age 14.
Yeah, at age 14.
Amazing.
We were in Hungary. It was Romania and Hungary we did on that trip. And it was so powerful. And I sensed the call of God through that. Really had that affirmed. People, yeah, you've got a call of God in your life. And that's just so important. And to be given opportunities to share your faith and serve. And I think too, it's so easy to forget there are a lot of countries on this planet. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of countries where the normal day-to-day life is nothing like what we enjoy. I mean, we live in a very blessed country, and it's easy to trip over the culture shock. I think the first time you go to a developing nation, what we used to call a third world country, it's an intense, eye-opening thing to experience slums, to experience poverty, to be in a place seeing sewage run through the street, seeing kids pick through trash, and realizing like, oh, wow, that's a very different level of poverty than you even kind of really even knew existed. And I do think it's so healthy and helpful to see and experience that. And I think we were shaped by that. We've always wanted to lead a church that has a heart for the lost, has a heart for the world, that cares about, the part of the world where they don't have access to the gospel yet, the 1040 window, where there's such little Christian witness. So we've always tried to have that in our mind, to have that in our heart. And then we wanted to have that in our home. Yeah. And so I think, how many years back, the first time we sponsored a child that was able to receive the gospel and receive food and receive care in another part of the world through our giving a small amount of money every month.
Well, I wish I knew exactly. I feel like it was before we started having kids.
Yeah.
When we first initially started.
That's my memory of it, yeah.
Sponsoring
even before we had kids.
Yeah.
Before technically we had our own kids, we were sponsoring a child into
Yes, but I don't know exactly, and I don't know the time frame. But I do know when we started interacting with the children that we were sponsoring was with Annika, who we started sponsoring, I think, when it was just Olivia and Lenya. Yeah. And we would write letters and send pictures and
we
receive
literally
letters.
Watched this girl grow up on our fridge. And then I had the chance to go while preaching in India and meet her. They said, oh, I contacted the organization and said, can we see her? And they're, oh, yes, it'd be great. And then I didn't realize how big India is. And so it was another plane ride, a train ride, a 4-hour car ride. I think I traveled another 24 hours after, of course, a 17-hour flight from Dallas to Dubai and then Dubai to India to go see her, which was worth it, to see our photographs inside her home. Incredible. And then our children have had that as a frame of reference and an anchor point. We've prayed for these kids. And as time's gone on and our life's grown, we've been adding in the kids that we're caring for and praying for. And that brings us to Bolivia, to this present moment. Yeah. Because we've been longing and praying for and dreaming for, planning on a mission trip for our family. Yeah. And we reached out to our friends at Compassion International, which, I mean, literally, I have the numbers here. 1952 is when Compassion started. They're operating in 29 countries. Right now, they have 2.3 million children around the world in partnership relationships. And they're working with 8,500 different churches to help this happen. And I think the three words that really explain Compassion so well is child, church, and Christ.
Yeah.
They want to focus on reaching kids, children. They want to use the church to do it. And then they want to point every kid to Christ.
Yeah.
And I love that they make the church the champion. So they don't come into a project, set up a building that says Compassion, and then give free food, clothes, and the Bible away. They go find a church in an area. They equip them. They give them money. They give them resource and vision so that they get to be the winners and that they get to have their stature of being a place in the community that's blessing and empowering. We've watched it shape, I think, and form our kids as they've been raised in a home where they're aware of others. They've seen and written to these children over the years, and now they've gotten to come in and see it. So I thought we'd just talk a little bit about what that was like coming here and watching it through our kids' eyes.
I think for me personally, I feel like it just opened up a new dimension. It was like I had seen it two-dimensionally for so long with pictures and letters being written, and there was a connection, but this just like put it in 3D and full color of this little kid who for example, Jose, like we've gotten to sponsor him for 6 years, which is most of his life, like since he was 1. And he's the same age as Lennox.
Which is why we picked him. Because we were on tour with Lisa Turkhurst and Compassion was out as a sponsor.
And the Compassion team was like, hey, pick someone who you want. And so when I was looking, I found Jose, who was born the same year as Lennox. And I was like, oh my gosh, how special would that be to get to sponsor a kid who is in another country, but is the same age as Lennox. And so, but to get to meet him and get to hug him and get to play with him and see you throwing a football at him and kicking a football or a soccer ball with the kids and getting to see him do a presentation at their church and do a little dance presentation and
comes out with his little hat on
and to meet his family and to meet him at his home and there was just such a deeper connection that opened my eyes to see that this is not just a picture of someone. This is a person who we get to have a part in of, yes, supporting and sponsoring, but also praying for. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I can pray for his parents and his brother and his cousins and his grandparents who we met and what they need. And then not to mention the other kids that we got to meet, Wara and Patrick, and their situations and get to know them. And so I guess just for me personally, it's just really brought just a deeper sense of purpose for us as a family in investing in these kids and their callings and their lives and their impact and their family, and getting to see our kids have that experience and just kind of seeing them process and connect and just imagining, even because we don't fully know what God's doing in our own kids' hearts, but just imagining the impact for them of what this will look like for their future. Just like God got a hold of us. I mean, 13 when I was 13, I was Clover's age now, and 14, you were Daisy's age now. Like to think of that impact in their hearts and their lives, what that means now. And what that's going to look like in their future. I'm so grateful.
And just they have that frame of reference. I think some of it's amazing. It's hard. It's hot. Not every mission field's that way, but it's rugged. I mean, the travel here was not glamorous, and we laughed because we have status with a particular airline, and we traveled here on an airline we had no status on. So it was like last group to board, last experience. Like it was like the exact, opposite of a lot of what travel can be like. When you do a lot of travel, it gets easier, hopefully.
But even just the exhaustion, like for Lennox,
exhaustion.
like he's
Oh, man.
exhausted.
24 hours of travel.
And he has so much energy, but to see him like
when he gets depleted, he runs out and it was like he had nothing more to give. But then, I mean, just even like being offered food and just, hey, we're going to eat what we're offered. And that's so important. I want to raise kids that are internationally conscious and aware of God's heart for the nations. And I was just even really struck our first morning here reading about Revelation 5, the throne room of heaven. He's being worshipped by those of every tribe, tongue, nation, language.
Yeah.
Jesus, if you could hear what he's hearing right now, he's hearing worship in every tongue. He's hearing worship in every language, every people group, not just the culture we individually live in, but God's doing a work in all the earth. And I want us to be aware of that. Yeah. Not that we don't love our country, wherever that is, but that we're just aware of God's heartbeat for the nations.
Yeah, that's the bigger picture, bigger perspective. Because I do feel like even as God called us to ministry and used missions in our lives, he called us to Montana. Like he called us to the mission field of Montana. Yes, Montana and beyond, but he can call us, like you said, in whatever world he's called us to, he will call us. But to have that missions mindset that kind of like fuels it all too, of just, and it's not just about us, it's
the shock waves of whatever God does anywhere should be felt everywhere in that global way. And I think that's just important. And I think people ask us a lot about our kids. They comment, it seems like there's something about our family culture and our children and what's happening that people tend to ask us about. Like, there's something different. It's crazy. And I would just say, like, this is a peek behind the curtain, one of those things. Does it feel like, I feel like it's disproportionately affected our kids in their awareness of the writing letters to. So I thought we would talk for a moment about just these three specific kids that we've interacted with. You mentioned Jose, Jose's 7. We got to go to the child center where Jose goes multiple times a week for food, for biblical training, for fun, for love. And then afterwards, we got to go to Jose's house. And Jose's parents are migrant workers. They farm wherever there's a crop to be farmed. And so that means they travel a lot, leaving Jose and his siblings without anyone to look after them. So grandpa steps in. Jose's grandfather came around. He was very sweet.
And grandmother.
They were around. And the home, they're watching Jose and their siblings and some other cousins in, literally was one stone room with a single bed that all of these kids, presumably parents, maybe grandparents, that's it. Like literally a bed, like the size of maybe a double bed, you know? And to think of a family of 6 or 7 people all having to find and make do, we couldn't see a bathroom. There was no kitchen that we could tell. I didn't think the house had running water. And it really put into sharp relief, I think, for all of us standing there, just how good we have it, how blessed we are, and what an honor it is to be a source of love to Jose.
Yeah.
And to be helping him for such a small amount of money, get food, get help, get love, get care. Then he'll graduate into the next phase, which he'll start getting leadership training. He'll start getting eventually help in figuring out a job and skills, and whether that's internet or certification, whatever other industry he might want. And just all of this incredible, what a privilege it is to be connected to Jose.
Yeah. It really is such a gift. And to see where he's at now, and even just little things like every time we would at the church where he goes to his program, like every time we would pray or sing, like he would automatically put his hands together and even I could hear him, he would just start praying on his own, even if someone else is praying. And I think that's just a rhythm that he's learned, but just imagining that rhythm for his whole life, like that kind of foundation that will lead to whatever God has for him next is just a little thing that will make such a huge impact.
And that will, by God's grace, continue to get to play a part in Jose's life till he's 22 and out of the compassion system, and hopefully on his way to doing whatever God's called him to do.
And we met one of the translators, her name's Raquel. she was telling me that, and you got to interview her. She was telling me that she got to meet her sponsors after she graduated the program. So when she was older, she went to America and reached out to her sponsors, and they were able to meet and connect. And I think they still even go back and forth.
We'll show that now. This is the interview I did with Raquel, who was a compassion child receiving this kind of love and care, and is now serving in the ministry. She was our translator all week.
Yeah.
And is serving in the program that was what helped her. So check out this little convo that we did with Raquel. Raquel, you are from Santa Cruz.
Yes.
And you were in the Compassion program as a child.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first were able to receive sponsorship?
I was around 9 years old when I was registered, and I got my sponsor.
What did it mean to you to get a sponsor?
It was very special because it was to have the support there at the church, and people and the tutors, the director, they believed in me. Like, they encouraged me a lot to keep coming to the service of church, and also keep thinking, and dreaming and study further than just finishing high school.
Yeah,
that was a lot. And they also helped me to. With leadership skills, they gave me the opportunity to help the younger ones. So that was awesome. I think I enjoy my time there with older kids and also with the younger ones. That was very special.
How old were you when you started helping with the younger ones?
Maybe around 12.
So now here we are in Bolivia watching you as a leadership within Compassion. So now you've come full circle, and you're helping facilitate, and you probably see yourself in the little kids that you're around every day, but now you're on the other side of it, helping facilitate, working with the organization that God used to bring. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful to see that support is available for many other kids now that I see, and in all those areas are very important. They're helping them to be kids, playing around, sharing meals. That was very important.
Where did your family live that sponsored you?
They were from the U.S.
From the U.S. Do you know what state?
They live in Kansas.
In Kansas. Okay, so
you got to meet them after. Tell us the story.
Oh yeah, I met my sponsor in the U.S. at their home. They came to pick me up from the airport.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how beautiful.
It was after you graduated from the program, right?
That's right. It was after I graduated. I learned I was going to the U.S. and I came in contact with them, and they agreed to meet us, and they were also very happy to meet me.
Who wouldn't be happy to meet you? You're just a ray of sunshine.
I need to share with them that I kept all my letters that they sent me, and also they had my letters. I was surprised, because I learned they moved from different places, and I wasn't expecting them to have all my letters, but they did.
Yeah, you were part of their family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now today we're meeting people. You're translating for us, and you're a part of all this that God did in you first. And that's so biblical, that what God does in you, He wants to do through you. And you're a bright example of that.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great blessing for me to have all that support, from the church, from the sponsor, from the staff. My sponsor meant a lot to me, and that's how also I got curious on learning more English, because I wanted to read my letters by myself, not the translation part.
That's beautiful.
So that was.
Well, thank you for your story, your heart. We're grateful to know you. So Raquel was so sweet. And that was right there at the church, Bethel Compañero in Cotoca, Santa Cruz, Bolivia.
Good job.
Which is the church that's the hero that gets to be the hero for this program, which is so rad.
Yeah, and we got to spend time with the pastor and his wife, and we had lunch with them. He actually cooked us lamb, and we got to connect with them and their daughter, and it was just so beautiful to see what God's called them to and the work that they get to be part of and what they're passionate about. And then they got to present to us about their heart and their vision for their church and for the community, and daycare. It was just really inspiring, personally inspiring, just to see their heart for their community.
So we have more we want to say about all this, and we want to share about the other two kids we got to meet as well, Wara and Patrick. But first, we just want to let you know that we asked Compassion. We knew Lusketeers listening to this would be like, okay, stop. We want to be a part of this too.
Yeah.
And so we thought it would be pretty powerful if the two children's centers that we went to, the one we went to today and the one we went to yesterday, if there were any other kids in that area that hadn't been sponsored yet. And so if any Lusketeers want to get in on a partnership with Compassion, all you have to do is go to compassion.com/Lusko. And there you can specifically, I checked it out just a moment ago, look at the photos from kids in the two centers that we visited that are still waiting for sponsorship. And so then you could be a part of their heart and lives, like we've been with the kids that Jose, Patrick, and Wara that we've been sponsoring. And it's been neat too. I mean, obviously we started with that young girl from India, Annika, and over the years growing and adding these kids in, and it's just been beautiful. But the two longest running in Bolivia children that we're sponsoring are Patrick and Wara. So talk a little bit about that.
So Patrick is 14 years old, and we've been actually sponsoring both he and Wara for 8 years. And he's 14 and she's 16. And you got to have such a sweet conversation with him. But he just has such a sweetness about him, such a tenderness about him, like a brightness in his eyes.
Yeah.
But he's been through a lot.
Yeah. We knew, because the letters that we write back and forth, we knew his parents were divorced. And so that's all we knew. But he hadn't opened up too much. But today, it was actually, we got to go to a park and have walk around and play and talk. And at one point, everybody else was doing something. And I sat down with Patrick and the translator, and he opened up to me about, I was like, tell me about your parents' divorce, because my parents also were divorced. That hurt my heart. Tell me about it. He goes, well, and long story short, I'm not going to try and put it in his words, but long story short, it's not just that his parents divorced. It's that his parents totally abandoned him. When he was very young, his parents separated, and they both turned their backs on him for various reasons. Yeah. He has no relationship with his mom at all. And he sees his dad occasionally, but his dad's not invested or in any way being a father. And he basically bounces around any relative that will let him kind of basically sleep at their home. And he has no one looking after him. Because of that, no one's making him go to school. No one's really holding his feet to the fire. And this Compassion program that he gets to come to weekly is probably the only source of just steady, ongoing love, kind of accountability, tutoring. Are you doing your homework? Anything really like that.
Yeah,
and
a consistent part of his life.
And I got to talk to him about the Bible studies he's getting, the leadership training he's getting, the youth group, the food, all of that kind of environment. And it just, sitting there with him, realizing that we've been, for 8 years, able to help him have the closest thing to the parental love he's supposed to be getting.
Yeah.
It just broke my heart. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Yeah. I just sat there going, thank you, Lord, that we get to be in Patrick's life in this way.
Yeah. So grateful. And I just love that it was a moment where you were able to kind of have that conversation with him of just encouraging him and kind of keeping his future in view of like, okay, remember, like what you're doing now is going to impact what you have going on in your future.
We had some sweet time, and I look forward to continue to write him and talk to him and encourage him. And yeah, I got to talk to him about Linya going to heaven and just dealing with hard things and keeping your eyes on Jesus. And,
yeah.
And then there's Wara.
And then Wara, she turned 16 this week, and the time that we've been here, she's turning 16, and also sweet. I was calling her sweetheart, but there isn't a word really for sweetheart in their language, and so the translator said, well, you could say cariño corazón, and I think that's just a dear heart kind of thing.
Well, it was so funny too, because as God would plan it, when we looked up everything about their information and when we were coming, it just so happened that this week was Wara's birthday.
Yeah.
And we were going to be able to be here. And so, of course, we were like, well, then we're going to celebrate her birthday.
Yeah.
And we did. We were able to have a cake come out. And oh my gosh, I think she just kept staring at this cake and was like, I don't know how many cakes she's had in her life, or very many or not, but it was like to see her. And her dad came when we spent time with her. we found out that her mom's not in the scene at all.
No, they've been through a lot of trauma in their family in the past 2 years, but I'm sure even before that too. But I got to sit down and talk with her dad, and he was just telling me that he has 5 kids, but one of his sons died recently. He was 19, and it was 2 years ago. And kind of as a result of that, his the kid's mother, his wife, was just couldn't handle it, and she's left. She's not in the picture anymore. And so he, as a single dad, is now working to provide for his family and to be there for them, make sure that they're getting their education and everything that they need. And so he was just conveying his gratitude that we would be investing in Wara's life and education. And
Well, and just knowing she doesn't have a mom in her life in that way, and just to watch her, like the way she was responding to your love, it was very interesting. She was just latched
she
onto
loved
you,
like
and
the hugs. I think
Yeah.
she just really needed
wasn't letting go
a
of you.
motherly hug. I know.
Yeah, and it was, but to watch her look at this cake, and she asked if she could take it back to
Her family.
her family. So we, instead of eating it, we boxed it up, and it was just to watch her watch that cake and to watch her hug you. Those are memories of this trip that I'm not going to soon let go of.
Yeah. Well, and something that's been so special is Daisy, our daughter Daisy, loves writing letters. Like she has a few pen pals that she'll write who are just friends like around the country. But she has just really had a heart to communicate and to be the one writing the letters with Wara in particular, but also Patrick.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of giving us a little bit of the intel of like when, as she would write back and forth, like what they would say. But I love that for Daisy of her investing time into writing letters, but then getting to meet the kids that she
and there was some things we learned about that I didn't know about, that maybe you, if you even currently have a sponsorship with Compassion specifically, once you log into the account, you can tell them you want to send a birthday gift to the kids each year. They'll arrange for that to happen. And then you also can request to send a family gift. And there's an allotment they'll help arrange. And meaning you could say, hey, what is the need for the family? And then the program director will work with the pastor of the church that the program's housed at and investigate what the best thing you could do to help the family. They were saying like, maybe the best thing is a goat. If you bought them a goat, they could start milking it and sell the milk, and that could change their economic situation. So above and beyond your normal sponsorship, you can also send a birthday gift each year. You can also inquire about a family gift.
Yeah.
So I was saying like, hey, would a stack of other mattresses help? And they're like, well, that might be the most helpful thing, or a goat could be. So I think knowing those things are there, also being able to send photographs of your family, it's so important. We gave framed photographs. These are just things I think that can really bring your home into a place where the lost and forgotten of the world are not lost and forgotten.
Yeah.
You know?
And I just found out too, one of the Compassion team members said that the Compassion app, you can do so much through that, where you can actually email letters. And because I think that's something that I have gotten bogged down with over time, is like I'll receive their letters, they'll kind of stack up, and it'll be like a long time before we respond. And she was saying that you can type them out and email them. It'll still go through the translator and they'll still receive like a printed version of it, but it just takes out some of the time lost. And then also like sending pictures that way. There's just an ease with it with the Compassion app that I didn't realize until this trip.
How to better utilize it to keep the lost and the last and least of these from being forgotten in your heart and home. And it's just a simple way to anchor your family culture in the gospel, getting to the ends of the earth. And I think it creates in the kids a bigger spirit, a sense in which, like the book of Proverbs says, the generous in soul just gets, the world just gets bigger and bigger. And I think that's part of the power of what we've seen happen. It's also been a way for us, I think, to respond to loss in our own lives. Linya being in heaven, like it's just, I think having a mentality for, well, God has a heart for the loss of the world, just like we do for a child that we're not connected to in life right now. And so we just really had it on our heart to share this. I'm not sure everyone's listening with ears to hear. You're like, I don't know what, this is kind of a different podcast, but I hope you're receiving it as it's coming from Jennie and I. It's just something so important to us that's, I think,
share that,
helped us be who we've been called to be, and hopefully can be a blessing to you in that way. Yeah, I think what I love, Jennie, about it is, if you're struggling with depression today, if you're anxious today, if you feel, if you're stressed and worried, I think write a letter to a child in the world somewhere. Connect and correspond with someone. Like Jesus said, let the kids come to me. And I think one way we take our proper place, rise up in our callings, is care about what Jesus cares about.
Yeah.
And so this has meant the world to us. We've loved it. Look for ways for the globe, the whole world that God loves so much that he sent his only son, to be a priority, and watch what happens as a result.
Yeah. I just think of that passage where Jesus said, giving even a cold cup of water to one of these is showing that love to me. So even this is such a practical way to, yes, glorify God and to serve him, but also in such a practical way to serve kids that are across the country, that this will make a huge impact in their lives.
And so much fun. There's not more fun. Yeah. Like to see and think, oh my goodness, like I got to be a part of blessing this little one. I got to be a part of this little girl's world, this guy's world. What a joy.
Yeah.
So again, if you go to compassion.com/Lusko, you can specifically partner with some. I was looking at the photos, like, okay, I high-fived that kid. I played football with that kid. You were painting the nails of that one. I mean, it's just, these are literally kids from these centers we got to visit. They're real. They exist. They're living in crazy poverty, but also joy, because wild joy. You know, you think again. I was talking with some of the pastors at dinner last night. I was like, "Is teen suicide a massive problem here?" And they were like, "Not really. It's funny." We live in this huge affluent culture with so much technology and so much, and it's like, and yet so much anxiety, so much stress, so much worry, so much.
Wow.
It really does make you think about what it really does mean to be happy, what it doesn't mean. And of course, I'm not saying we should all just live in poverty, because then there would be no suicide or anxiety. But it is interesting the joy and the carefree spirit you see in places where they don't have access to the modern lives that are supposedly so much fun for us to have.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I love the thought of targeting an area, and even just like a lot of us are getting to serve at Hope Heals Camp as Luskatiers. Like, I love the thought of, if God were to lead you to do that, but just to be able to kind of have a concentrated
focused scope
with some kids in Bolivia.
A bunch of Luskatiers all writing to kids and caring for kids in Bolivia.
Yeah,
is
I love
pretty
that.
special.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're glad we could bring you with us to Bolivia. Probably one of the noisier episodes, just because there's a lot of Santa Cruz action going on the street. We're actually, in just a little bit here, going to head to the airport and get on the first of 4 planes on the way home.
Yeah.
But we're glad that even though we couldn't legally smuggle you in the suitcase, which if you do come to Bolivia, sort out your visa stuff ahead of time.
Oh.
But then buckle up, because even with all that, it was a thing. Literally,
Pack light.
Almost didn't make it through immigration because the dollar bills were not crisp enough. They like very crispy bills at their immigration. So anyhow, thanks for coming with us on our mission trip here, and love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by levilusko.com and jennielusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko out.
Access more